President Bukele has gambled away taxpayer funds. El Salvador's investment is fast losing value to the tune of at least $50 million as the Bitcoin market cools. Since September 2021, the government of El Salvador, headed by President Nayib Bukele, has accumulated 2,301 Bitcoins worth $103 million. They are now valued at around $51 million. How did the President of El Salvador lose his people's money? Stay tuned till the end because we will discuss the long-term ramifications of certain decisions. Who is Nayib Bukele? Nayib Bukele was the first presidential candidate not affiliated with either of El Salvador's two main political parties to win the presidency. Some media have portrayed him as an authoritarian and self-proclaimed dictator. His popularity ratings remain around 87% though, making him one of the most popular domestic heads of state in the world. President Bukele sent troops to the Legislative Assembly in February 2020 to frighten members into rejecting a $109 million loan from the U.S. Opposition lawmakers have criticized the incident as a self-coup and highlighted it as evidence of democratic regression. The Supreme Court of El Salvador determined on September 3, 2021, that the president is entitled to serve 2 consecutive terms. The decision permits President Bukele to compete for re-election in the general election in 2024. Some condemn the decision, labeling it a precursor to tyranny. What is Bitcoin? Why would the president of El Salvador be interested in it? Bitcoin is a decentralized digital currency that can be exchanged over the Bitcoin peer-to-peer network. Using encryption, network nodes verify Bitcoin transactions, which are then recorded in a public distributed ledger known as a blockchain. An unknown individual or group using the name Satoshi Nakamoto created the cryptocurrency in 2008. In 2009, when its implementation was published as open-source software, the money entered circulation. At least 8 Nobel laureates in economic sciences have referred to Bitcoin as an economic bubble, but El Salvador and the Central African Republic has recognized Bitcoin as legal currency, while Ukraine is taking Bitcoin contributions to aid its battle against the Russian invasion. The economy of El Salvador was already in trouble. Natural calamities such as earthquakes and hurricanes, government policies mandating massive economic subsidies, and official corruption have harmed El Salvador's economy. In April 2012, the International Monetary Fund stopped a $750 million loan to the central government due to subsidy problems. Alex Segovia, the head of cabinet for President Funes, recognized that the economy was on the verge of catastrophe. At 64% of GDP, the service sector is the biggest in El Salvador, followed by the industrial sector at 24% and agriculture at 11.2%. After 1996, the actual annual growth rate of the GDP averaged 3.2% per year. The administration committed to free market policies, and real GDP growth in 2007 reached 4.7%. In December of 1999, foreign reserves amounted to $1.8 billion. Using this hard currency buffer, the Salvadoran government implemented a strategy for monetary unification in January 2001, wherein the U.S. dollar became legal tender alongside the Salvadoran colón, and all official accounting was conducted in U.S. dollars. El Salvador lost authority over its monetary policy since adopting the U.S. currency. Any counter-cyclical reaction to the recession must be implemented via fiscal policy, which is hampered by legal limitations, requiring a 2/3 majority to accept foreign finance. As of December 2017, there were $3.57 billion in net overseas reserves. El Salvador has long struggled to build new development areas for a more diverse economy. In the past, the nation produced gold and silver, but recent efforts to revive the mining industry, which were projected to contribute hundreds of millions of dollars to the local economy, failed when President Saka halted Pacific Rim Mining Corporation's activities. According to the Central American Institute for Fiscal Studies, the contribution of metallic mining to the country's GDP between 2010 and 2015 was a negligible 0.3%. Local citizens and grassroots groups throughout the nation backed Saka's choice, which was not devoid of political motivations. Later, President Funes denied a company's request for an additional permission due to the possibility of cyanide poisoning in one of the country's major rivers. As with other former colonies, El Salvador's economy was deemed a mono-export economy, or one that mainly relied on one sort of export, for many years. El Salvador was a prominent exporter of indigo during colonial times, but following the advent of synthetic dyes in the 19th century, the newly formed modern state shifted its focus to coffee. Focusing on indirect taxes, the government has worked to enhance the collection of its existing income. Incorporating a 10% value-added tax in September 1992, the rate was increased to 13% in July 1995. The inflation rate has remained stable and is among the lowest in the area. From 2000 to 2006, as a consequence of free trade agreements, Overall exports increased by 19%, from $2.94 billion to $3.51 billion, while total imports increased by 54%, from $4.95 billion to $7.63 billion. This has increased the trade imbalance by 102%, from $2.01 billion to $4.12 billion. In 2006, El Salvador was the first nation to approve the Central America-Dominican Republic Free Trade Agreement, also known as CAFTA, with the United States, which was negotiated by the 5 Central American countries and the Dominican Republic. CAFTA mandates the Salvadoran government implement pro-free trade policies. CAFTA has increased exports of processed goods, sugar, and ethanol, as well as investment in the garment industry, which faced Asian competition when the multi-fiber arrangement expired in 2005. In anticipation of reductions in the competitiveness of the garment industry, the previous government tried to diversify the economy by marketing the nation as a regional distribution and logistics center and by offering tax incentives to encourage tourist investment. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele has said that he would present legislation to legalize Bitcoin in June 2021. On June 9, the Legislative Assembly of El Salvador enacted the Bitcoin law with a majority vote of 62 out of 84. Bitcoin became legal tender on September 7, 2021, 90 days after the legislation was published in the official Gazette. Foreigners can get permanent residency in El Salvador if they invest 3 Bitcoin in the nation, citing the legislation. Protests have greeted the adoption of the law, with the majority of the population opposing the use of Bitcoin as legal cash. According to a survey done by the Salvadoran Chamber of Commerce, just 14% of retailers in the nation have handled at least one Bitcoin transaction as of March 2022. According to economists, El Salvador is learning its lesson the hard way. President Nayib Bukele, who claimed this month on Twitter that he exchanges his country's cash for Bitcoin on his phone, supervised the acceptance of the cryptocurrency as legal money. Since then, its falling value has lost the national treasury up to $22 million in valuable reserves. The bonds of the nation have plummeted. In the meantime, fears about decreasing financial transparency have blocked a crucial loan agreement with the International Monetary Fund, which on Tuesday urged El Salvador to abandon Bitcoin as legal currency. How did President Bukele become interested in Bitcoin? The 40-year-old bad boy of Latin American politics, who prefers backward baseball hats and cool sunglasses, proposed the cryptocurrency as a partner to the U.S. dollar, which became El Salvador's official currency in 2001. The digitally generated Bitcoin would be a great economic equalizer, he promised, liberating his remittance-dependent people from the burden of hefty transfer fees and providing impoverished Salvadorans without bank accounts access to financial services for the first time. Bukele is an avid Bitcoin investor and crypto enthusiast, and when we say he has invested in Bitcoin, we mean that El Salvadorian taxpayers have invested in Bitcoin since he has purchased Bitcoin with their money. El Salvador presently possesses 2,301 Bitcoin, worth around $53 million, approximately half of the $105.6 million that Bukele invested. It spent more than $60,300 per Bitcoin in October 2021, when Bukele bought the drop and purchased 420 Bitcoins at the highest price per Bitcoin. Last month, on May 9, Bukele bought the drop and got 500 Bitcoins for more than $30,700 apiece, marking the lowest point. The current price of Bitcoin is about $23,000 and falling. This implies that as of today, all of those purchases were losses. There was not a single transaction below the current price. In the last month and a half, the cryptocurrency market has been troubled by a series of incidents, including the collapse of the stablecoin Terra and the bankruptcy of prominent DeFi lender Celsius. Those who found Bitcoin in the previous 18 months and opted to invest are presently in the red. Clearly, this is bad news for El Salvador, a nation that was already experiencing a financial crisis. What was the outcome of Bukele's decision? Bitcoin surprisingly failed to fix El Salvador's issues. Critics have branded Bukele as an authoritarian, yet he has nevertheless had to cope with the problems confronting his nation, including a violent crime wave that led to the imprisonment of 2% of El Salvador's adult population. On top of everything else, he's had to deal with demonstrations stemming from Bitcoin rules he helped design. The plunging cryptocurrency market has not altered Bukele's opinion on Bitcoin. Bukele had intended to issue volcano bonds in order to collect funding for the creation of a Bitcoin city. The introduction of the bonds, originally scheduled for March, has been delayed, owing to, the present crypto market circumstances. Now, theoretically, Bukele will not have lost anything until he sells. If he continues to hoard, he may recover part of the money he has lost, but time is not on El Salvador's side. Due in part to these unsuccessful Bitcoin trials, El Salvador seems to be in risk of defaulting. The lesson seems to be that abruptly throwing away government money on extremely speculative crypto assets is not a smart way to govern a nation. What do you think of Bukele's decision to invest in Bitcoin? What else would you like us to talk about in our upcoming videos? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any of our videos.